The state capture report has implicated some high-profile politicians and business people. It's calling for law enforcement agencies to investigate those implicated. Now, one law expert says there are sound reasons to give amnesty to alleged wrongdoers, but the amnesty should come with strict conditions. Let's discuss this now with Robert Appelbaum from Webber Wentzel. Robert, good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time. Let me just correct myself there. You are part of a group of people, including advocates Gavin Rowe and Sichaba Mohapi, who are members of Group 1 Advocates and the Johannesburg Bar, as well as Ryan Hopkins, an attorney of the High Court of South Africa, who believe that, as bitter as it may sound, we might have to swallow a pill of giving amnesty to people who've been implicated in state capture. Just an overriding question first. It's not the first time you've expressed this kind of views. Why would you think an amnesty is the way to go?
So good afternoon and thank you. So essentially, if we go back, my first time we raised this was in 2020. And essentially, it was out of desperation when one looks at how long any prosecution is taking, whether it's likely that anyone is ever prosecuted. And you know, everyone wants to see all the bad guys wearing orange overalls. The likelihood is they aren't going to be wearing them. And at very best, the lowest level of person will be those wearing them. But do we expect, given the Stalingrad tactics that we've seen of our former president and many of his acolytes, are we likely to see successful prosecutions in the short term? I and we don't believe so, which is why we raised it when we did. And given the fact that Advocate Webber Wentzel, our previous public protector, came out last week and said pretty much what we were saying, slight modifications, we thought it was something that needed to be back in the public mind, given Zondo reports and given the likely outcome of that, and in our view, the unlikely prosecutions that will follow.
Okay, we'll unpack your views. I did interview Professor Webber Wentzel yesterday when we were talking about PRASA. Her PRASA report she wrote in 2015 called Derailed, you know, in terms of the state capture report. And she told me and the viewers on eNCA just yesterday that she would support amnesty, but not a blanket amnesty, not for everybody, for certain levels of employees who may have been caught in the web. What is your view and your peers' view about who should get this amnesty and how should it be? I mean, you can't just give free amnesty. Millions of rands meant to develop this country been looted.
So, Dan, to start, when we suggested this 2 years ago, what we were suggesting, one, it, yes, is a blanket amnesty, but subject to stringent conditions. Do we believe that you could say lower level people should not get amnesty and higher level, should and higher level not? I don't think that would be constitutional. So our view very simply was, let everyone take amnesty, let Parliament set the conditions, but it's not a get out of jail free card. Come and confess your crimes, come and confess who else was involved, have that settled or have that delivered to the prosecution service, then let Parliament set the levels of, is it a total disgorgement, which obviously we would love, but we know people have spent money, or is it a partial disgorgement? So, you know, X rand, for every rand you stole, you must return it, well, hopefully all or as much as possible. If there's a total admission made, disgorgement made, then have a fresh start. And Dan, this is not unheard of in this country, where we've had some very successful ones in our tax and exchange control amnesty. And in fact, yesterday I had James Cross, who was the previous deputy governor of the Reserve Bank, call me to congratulate me. He was involved in those previous amnesties, and he told me how successful they had been. And then, I mean, the best example in the world, there have been many amnesties, but in the 1970s, the police in Hong Kong were considered to be the single most corrupt institution in the world. They tried everything to stop it. Eventually had a proper amnesty, which was confess, pay back. If you breach again, or you don't tell us the truth, or you don't pay back the money, you go to jail. And they started fresh. And until relatively recently, Hong Kong was considered one of the cleanest places in the world. Now, our previous amnesties worked perfectly. Do we need something to trigger? Yes. Do we need some high-profile prosecutions to get people scared, as happened previously in South Africa, in tax amnesties and exchange amnesties? Absolutely. But it's not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's not that anyone must get away with the ill-gotten takings. They must return. But Parliament must set what those parameters are. And on a personal basis, I would have the commission that Zondo suggested, except that commission would be to determine whether people had been telling the truth. And I would then have that run by independent people, so there are no party affiliations, there are no fingers pointed at whether someone's connected to someone else. I would bring foreign experts and do it clean and fresh.
Yeah, so Robert, only amnesty would be applicable if we got there in terms of state capture, only if you come clean and you say exactly what you did and with who, and you reveal the rest of the people in that syndicate or your ecosystem, and you bring back some of the money if you still have some of that money as most as you can. Otherwise, you should face prosecution.
Absolutely. Otherwise, into orange overalls. Nothing could be nicer.
So what should happen next? Where do you think you and your colleagues would like to see this go to next? You are being congratulated, as you've said, by the former Reserve Bank Governor, Deputy Governor James Cross, about some amnesty that happened earlier. So where to next? What are you guys planning to do?
Well, what we're planning to do is, as we did in 2020 at least, which is attempt to engage with government, to offer our services or other services. We're not looking for briefs from this. What we're wanting is an intelligent conversation. We're happy to give our time, our ideas, but what we need is something that actually works, other than this constant threat of, oh, we're going to prosecute. And in 2020, we were attacked because we told we're usurping the National Prosecuting Authority's mandate. They were going to arrest people. It was all about to happen. There were lots of prosecutions. Well, I don't know about you or the viewing public, but we haven't seen them. So this, for us, is the only mature alternative. And that's essentially the reaction we're receiving this time.
Okay, thank you very much for your time and your explanations. Robert, we will touch base, of course, with you and watch the space, how that is going to develop. Robert Appelbaum, he's from Webber Wentzel. He and a group of other lawyers have penned an opinion piece, which they first did in 2020, saying that maybe it's time for the country to consider providing or giving amnesty to those who are implicated in state capture. It's not just a get out of jail free card kind of, but it will have to have certain conditions. It's something to think about. Still ahead on Today.